Yeah.
Is just a thing. But so yeah, that wasn't there. The opening teaser was fantastic
Yeah.
and perfectly set up. It was a very like that was when I knew that's when I said to myself that the cartoons are back because the great the excellent action sequences and stunt work in there, like the ridiculousness, the over the topness, and yet perfect choreography that went into it, where like the motorcycle ride across the rooftops.
Yeah.
That's so Bond. That's so Bond, and like just the fight choreography had that Daniel Craig era fighting where it's actual like fighting technique being put in
Yeah.
there, which is great. And
Just demolish every guy he comes across. He kind of actually takes a beating too. It's
yeah,
it's nice.
it's great. And of course, the moment which I'm sure is going to go down in Bond history, grabbing the train with the shovel, climbing across the shovel, doing it, and then of course cuff check, and then
Yeah.
continuing onward because oh my gosh, that moment was badass.
What I love about that moment especially is if fans at home, if you've been following along with the adventures of James Bond, you'll recall in Casino Royale how Daniel Craig has no qualms about commandeering local equipment and using it to his advantage. He kind of did something similar in that the one of the opening chase sequences of Casino Royale.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost saw this as like a bridge to that movie. It's like, oh hey, I'm still doing this, but then as he walks across and gets on the train and does the little cuff check, it's like, but I'm not that blunt instrument anymore. I'm Bond, baby.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very nice bridge, literally and metaphorically, between one era of prequel Bonds and like what we've come to know from 50 years.
Yeah, he's also not completely lost on my train of thought there, but yeah, so it's once again like with it completely made up for the open it completely what everything that the Quantum of Solace opening did wrong, this one did right. You
Yeah.
know, the scene was choreographed well. You could tell exactly what was happening as you were watching it. It just worked. It worked on it was so Bond, and then it ends with the scene from the trailer where he gets shot, and we go into the opening theme song. Now, Adele, I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking there are some people who generally Bond singers, you can almost tell who's going to be picked as a Bond singer and who's not. And oftentimes, whenever they go into like an oddball choice like Madonna, it just turns out bad. And sometimes they do choose oddball choices and they actually work. Like I would never have chosen Paul McCartney, but there you go.
Yeah.
But with Adele, she just has the perfect Bond song voice.
Yeah.
Just it was like made to
I
sing
almost
Bond
hate to
songs.
say it, but it's like, I mean, Billy knows this. I don't know if everybody else knows. I'm a huge fan of Adele's new album, 21, or the one that came out a while back. I picked it up, and it's actually in pretty heavy rotation in my car, which is impressive considering the rest of it is like power metal and prog rock and
Yeah.
things. But like, I almost feel like she was training up for this because it's like some of her other songs on the album, there's great instrumentation, there's great that, but it's just not lush enough for her voice. It's like, and that's part of the power of it. Like Rolling in the Deep works because of how her voice just cuts through everything. But this is like, it's the instrumentation and the orchestration just go perfectly with her voice, and also, I mean, I was worried about this going in. Opening credit sequence to go with this theme song. And while this one didn't start off the strongest for me, I like the little hand grabbing.
It was
Okay, so connecting to it, Bond gets shot at the end of the opening sequence. They've shown it in the trailers.
Yeah.
You've seen it. He falls into the river and gets washed over a waterfall. And then the sequence starts, and one of the first things is this very large female hand grabs his boot and pulls him down. And I thought, it's like, oh god, not one of these. And then it just started.
And then it goes crazy.
Yes. It's like a hall of mirrors, literally. Like, it just keeps zooming in, and every time you think you understand what you're seeing, it changes. And there's a lot of, like, there's blood, blood's a motif, there's a stag's head, which doesn't make sense at the time. I thought, oh great, Jägermeister's another sponsor of this movie. But at least pick good things. I mean, if there's one thing I agree with Brad, drink a good beer in the movie, man. You're English, drink Newcastle, not Heineken.
I didn't notice when he drank the Heineken. When did that happen?
When he was, when he was in the hut, on the beach, he was laying in bed. They didn't like do that annoying thing in movies where it's like, here, let me turn the bottle so you can see the label so clearly. It was a green bottle, so you knew that was the Heineken bottle.
Right.
And then later he drinks a martini, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. What do you think of the title sequence, Billy?
Holy shit, it was great. Like, yeah, it just... Like, again, like you say, I didn't know it going in, because I hadn't seen the movie yet, but it fit the movie perfectly. Thematically, as well as just... Like, I could tell, because I'd seen Film Brain's review of it going in. So I knew that Javier Bardem's character was supposed to be a mirror image of Bond, so all the Hall of Mirrors and everything like that, I'm like, I see what you're doing there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, it was just very good. It was like one of those sort of mind fuck opening sequences, but like the good kind of mind fuck opening sequence. If that makes any sense at all, or just sounds really pervy.
So, like, Darren Aronofsky versus David Lynch, where one, you understand what's happening even if it freaks you out, whereas the other, it's just, I'm scared because I don't know what's happening, and I never will.
Sort of. I'm not sure if... No, I didn't understand that at all, but that's okay. It did remind me a lot of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo opening, just with the heavy use of CGI and like the environment that's constantly shifting and changing and morphing into all these, and it was like there's so much things going on, and yeah, I mean the song, it worked with the song, I think.
All right,
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to toss in here just to shake things up, because speaking of environment, I think Billy maybe overview the viewers on what Bond tropes are. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick,
okay,
and then continue. Just
right.
give them an overview of what certain Bond tropes might be.
Yeah. And no, we're not editing this out. Okay. So, Bond tropes, ladies and gentlemen. Bond tropes, Bond tropes, Bond tropes. So, for those of you who have not been watching the James Bond movies, and really shame on you, the James Bond movies have they've picked up a number of little tropes or recurring themes or events. In every movie, in every movie, Bond has a few certain things he has to say. Now, this is more prevalent in the original franchise, and Bond would, in the original franchise, every movie was the same. Bond would go into M's office, but before he went into M's office, he would talk to Miss Moneypenny and flirt with her. Then he would go into M's office and get briefed. Then he would go to Q Branch, get some gadgets. Then he would go and he would do his thing with the villain and everything like that. During the course of his mission, he would say something about he would introduce himself as Bond, James Bond, and he would order a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. He would usually, out of his gadgets, the only really consistent type of gadget that he ever had, because he had like a lot of other ones, but the only consistent one really was, pardon me, a new car. He would always have a special gadget car. This was started in Goldfinger with the most famous car, um, the Aston Martin DB5, which in my opinion is still the best Bond car that they ever had. And
Beats the Vanquish.
yeah, going through all of the tropes, we see someone shaking a vodka martini for him, but he doesn't say it. He's just like, someone's shaking it, and he's like, "That's perfect, thank you." And we're like, "Yeah, he said it off screen." Of course, he says Bond, James Bond, because even in the prequel movies where they keep making fun of these tropes, they still got to say that because it's just so badass of a line.
Yeah.
And as for the other tropes that kind of had fallen off in recent years, Q is back. The guy did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't the original guy, but he did a great job as
Yeah.
Q. He was great. They've introduced Miss Moneypenny.
Yep, that's a big spoiler, folks.
Yeah, well, we warned you. We warned you. But
Oh,
yeah,
on that note, I briefly want to interject if you don't
okay.
mind. It seems nowadays, because of the internet age and internet journalism, that most filmmakers are forced to lie in some way or another about it. Like how Christopher Nolan stated that Marion Cotillard is not Miranda Tate. She's a completely different character.
It's not Talia. She's a completely different character. But
Yeah, she's not Talia. She's Miranda Tate, a completely different character.
Right, there you
And
go.
in this movie, they asked Naomi Harris point blank about, "Are you Moneypenny?" She's like, "No, I'm Eve. I'm a different character." And I, like, as soon as that final scene was gearing up, I'm like, "Oh no, I see where this is going."
Yeah, I was surprised at how well they kept that secret. That was the kind of thing where I would assume that someone would have figured it out. I mean, watching the movie, I pretty much figured it out. I didn't think she was Moneypenny, but I knew that she was going to be a Moneypenny character
Yeah.
because she's like, oh yeah, she wasn't a very good secret agent at the beginning, and then he's like, you don't have to go back out in the field if you don't want to, you know, and she has this sort of flirtatious relationship, but they never really have sex.
Yeah.
And all this stuff, and I'm watching that. I'm like, she's gonna stay, and she's gonna become like the new Moneypenny or something. She's not Moneypenny, obviously, but she's gonna be the new Moneypenny, right? And then at the end, she's like, Eve Moneypenny, and I'm like,
Oh.
oh. But yeah,
Uh,
and she's great. Like, as far like Lois Maxwell was, of course, embodied the role in the beginning, but and the woman during the Pierce Brosnan era was pretty good. The woman during the Timothy Dalton era was the worst, but we won't talk about her. The woman that they, what's her name of the actress?
Naomi Harris.
Naomi Harris does a great job in this movie
I mean,
playing.
you saw her already, though. She was in 28 Days Later. She was the female lead in 28 Days Later. Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome.
Holy shit, on a cracker.
Yeah. We'll talk about the acting later, because this movie actually seems to, for once in a Bond, well, okay, Bond movies are not known for their bad acting, but during the early years, there's a lot of hammy acting and obvious type acting, and this, we'll get into
to that.
later.
But that was what?
This is why I enjoy reviewing movies with you.
Okay. Anyway, she does a great job, and also, and something about I don't want anyone to think that I am dissing Lois Maxwell, because I love Lois Maxwell. She was great in the Bond movie. She was great in The Haunting. The reason why she was cast in the role, the guy she was trying out for the sexy, dangerous Bond girl, but got cast as Miss Moneypenny instead. And she asked Terrence Young, the director. I think it was Terrence. No, I think he directed I don't remember. The director. They asked the director, why was I cast as Miss Moneypenny and not that character? No, this is for a different movie she was cast as, but the same thing applies. And she says, because she smells of sex, you smell of soap.